Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today is another in the series of readings that I did a poll on my community tab around types of readings to really highlight for you what makes you special, unique, strong, a world beater, all of those sorts of things, so that we can really emphasize what is strong and unique and beautiful about you, rather than the way that we tend to get compartmentalized and judged within schools or universities or workplaces or wherever in the way that the world tends to be structured. So today's one is all about where or how are you the superhero. So what we're going to be focusing in on are what are your sort of skills, abilities, energies, spiritual underpinnings, all of those sort of things that make you a superhero in one or more aspects of your life, and how best to use those sort of skills and the causes and the passions that you have to really bring greater good to yourself and to others. And we'll look firstly at a bit of a map of what those sorts of superhero qualities could be, and then we're going to use tarot to look at how can you use that, or how are you using that in your life at the moment, and then what are the challenges or the antagonists or the people that you need to come up against or defeat or whatever it might be, because every superhero story requires some degree of challenge. It's like the oyster requires the grit to create the pearl. So we'll look at that, and we'll drill a little bit into the types of people and energies that might be those that you come up against and have to battle with in one form, literally or metaphorically in your life. And then we'll close out with some advice from Spirit about how best to maximize your superhero capacities. So what I've done with this, as I've done with quite a few of these sort of readings, is that to help with choosing the right pile, I'm going to use different tarot for each reading. So for the reading number one, I'm going to use the Glitter and Gloom tarot, and I've got the Strength card there for the superhero energy for that, for pile one. And I've also got the Solar Plexus Chakra Placement Stone. For pile two, we have the Dark Mansions Tarot, and we have the foundational, the Root Chakra Stone. And for pile three, we have the Somnia Tarot, and we have the Throat Chakra Placement Stone. So hopefully the colours or the chakra energies or the types of deck that I'm using will draw to you and help your inner knowing about which is the right reading for you. And certainly if you feel drawn to more than one, go to more than one. You might have many superhero capacities and options in your life that you want to explore. Pause the video if you need to tune in and decide which reading or readings to go to. When you do know, as always, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile one to your reading. So these cards were under the Strength card from the Glitter and Gloom tarot deck, which we'll get to fairly soon, and they're meant to be our first sort of map of some of the energies around your superpower. And your superpower is about home, community, and being the strength and the really natural balance and the natural protector of your home and community in one form or another. You've got the vegan card from the Mystic Martian Oracle here, so that's not necessarily being a vegan, though you may be. It's actually a particular interdimensional or ET species that are very much about the environment, very much about their home. They're very peaceful, and they are refugees from draconian wars, so they like to stay neutral and peaceful and just look after and tend the home. And you have Hestia here as well too, which is the goddess of the home and the hearth and keeping the home fires burning and all of that sort of energy. So you're very much a person within your community, within your family, within your social circle who really, part of your superpower is about creating and maintaining and protecting the home. And you will protect it when it's necessary because you have the Wild Huntress. It's very likely that many people have no idea about your superpower until it's too late for them if they are in battle with you, because your natural tendency is towards community, harmony, and connecting both sort of extra dimensionally, to the sense that we're part of a cosmos and we are creating our home within the cosmos, and we are tending to it and looking after the environment, and we are making it a sacred space, So you're very much that sort of person, and you will not go into a battle if you didn't have to. But if you have to, watch out, because the wild huntress will protect, will very much protect, and is very, very clever about doing it. You will not get caught up in petty politics. You will not get caught up in propaganda. You are someone who sees things very clearly for what the material outcomes of things are, and you can cut right through. And anybody who underestimates you is a fool, and they will learn, much to their dismay, how foolish they are if they seek to hurt those that you protect, the environment that you protect. Many of you may work in political or social causes. Many of you may work in environmental causes. There's a very strong sense of that, but it's your capacity to understand the balance and health of the community, the system that you're in, and to keep that sacred, and your preparedness to fight when and only when is necessary. You are not someone who is out to rule the world for the sake of ruling the world. In fact, you're not really interested in that at all. You're interested in making a safe, good community, home life, whatever it is for people, and you are extremely good at it. And people are drawn to you because of that, and they sense a kind of a higher spiritual understanding. And with the fate card there, you're meant to do this. Like, this is, you're meant to be a superhero in this space. I think that all of the people who come to this reading, there will come a time when there is a challenge. If it hasn't happened already, there will come a time when there is a challenge to the lifestyle, the beliefs, the community that you are in, and you are here for a reason. You are here to be able to connect interdimensionally and to keep things sacred and to protect those that need your protection. And I think people are drawn to you. They maybe don't even know, but you are the quiet warrior who rises at the right time, and there will be a right time. This is not a lifetime for you that is just going to be pleasant and easy and coasting. It doesn't mean to say that you won't have a lovely life overall or any of that, but there is going to be a point. There is going to be a tipping point where this capacity to really see things clearly and in a healthy and balanced way that is about community and caring and all of those things, as opposed to, as I say, politics, petty propaganda, power games, ego, all of that sort of stuff. Because one of the things about the wild huntress is she has been able to understand and see her own shadow. So you don't get diverted. People can't beguile you into being on their side. People can't make you do a series of compromises to give up your principles. You know who you are. You know what your community is. You know what you want to support, and you are a superhero to that community, and you are going to be seen as that. This is what I'm saying about fate. There will be a point in your life, if it hasn't happened already, there will be a point where you step up to the plate and people see who you are. They may not have done that yet, because, as I say, the natural tendency here is to be a bit self-effacing, to just be happy if the community is going well, and to just be a kind of a balancing and moderating force there. But there's something bigger. There's something bigger, and it's got a very strong spiritual warfare sort of feeling to it, a feeling of really being here for a reason. So there is a true superhero in you, and you will be a superhero, but it will be about protecting community in some way. So let's have a look at what the tarot wants to tell us about what's happening around your superhero journey at the moment, pile one. What are the energies around that at the moment? Wow, okay, so all of those are reversed, which is sort of somewhat unusual. So it tells me that whatever this is starting to come to the surface, but it isn't there yet. Whatever this fate is, even if you are already in a battle, and some of you may be, with the ruler of earth, which is effectively the king or queen of pentacles reversed, you may already be, and with the 10 of fire reversed, which is the 10 of wands reversed, you may already have been in a number of battles or debates around political, community causes, those sorts of things. Some of you may be community organisers, you may be social justice warriors, you may be people who work in sort of the business world, but you want to kind of change it from within. And I think that for many of you, you've started on that journey, and there have been some emotional losses with the 10 of water reversed. Some of you, I'm getting, your community, your family is not the one that you were born into, in the sense of what you will be protecting and moving into. There's been a shift away from traditional forms of family and connection for you towards something that is more true to who you are. And that hasn't been without some debate with others and some maybe loss of people around you, where you've kind of had to find your new tribe, your new family, your new home, and so forth. You haven't fully worked out what that means to you yet with the Ace of Fire reverse, but you have started this. This is, I suspect for most of the people here, there's always been a bit of a battle around you. It's part of that kind of character is destiny or character is fate. There is, you were born into this, you were born with that capacity. And I think it may well be for many of you who were born into families or into social structures that were not cohesive and were not mutually nurturing. And it was almost like a trial by fire. It was like the school of hard knocks. It was actually making you learn this stuff because it is going to be so much of who you are, and you are meant to be able to understand that, because the wild huntress has come to an understanding, understands their own shadow, understands the shadow of others, understands how to moderate that. So it's almost impossible to be a superhero in that sense without having gone through it. So I think that you have. And I think for many of you, you may have moved away, as I say, from your traditional family or traditional social structure or traditional politics or whatever it is. You haven't yet fully born what is going to be the case, but you will be a catalyst around that. You will draw people to you, and you will become the person who helps create the home space. And eventually, when the time comes, you will protect it. So let's have a look at what is your challenge. What is your battle, or who potentially is your challenge and battle, so that we really understand how you come into your superhero status. So I think these cards are giving us both some indication, which we're going to get into in a bit more detail with some oracle cards, about who might be your antagonist or what the energy might be around that, and also where there, in fact, I think might be an ally. I think there's an ally coming up in this as well too, and maybe giving that sense of where your true family is. So I'm going to start first of all where I think the antagonist is. We have a creator of fire. So the creator of fire is like the Page of Wands. So there is something in terms of the battle that you need to do with somebody who is a little bit immature, or people or a philosophy or a group that are a bit immature about what they want to create in the world, and they're very ambitious and they're very competitive. So they're disruptive. They're disruptive energy. They want the new, but they haven't necessarily worked out what that means. So it feels to me as though it's in environments where you're starting to build the community, the home, the sense of settledness. What comes in is a competitive energy that wants to shake it all up and make it something else. They want to move from being the creator of fire to being the ruler of fire. They want to be the king of, or queen of wands, basically, but they're not there yet. It's not, you are far more mature in how you deal with things. You understand why certain things wouldn't work and why certain things would be disruptive, whereas these people, they're just contrarian in some way, or this person is just contrarian. And it's not unusual that what will happen is, if there is a community or a social or political environment that has started to get a real sense of cohesion, that this energy will be drawn into it. And it could also be literally, if you're working with the environment, it could be people who, between sort of technology or anything to do with sort of fiery energy, sort of like the more traditional energy sources, for instance, really want to shake up what you're trying to do environmentally. But it's not a mature energy. We will see a little bit more about this a little bit later in the reading, but part of what you're going to be dealing with, and part of where your superhero side comes out, is people who have maybe lots of grand ideas and ambitions, but not necessarily the emotional and intellectual maturity yet to do it. On the other hand, it is picking up that you will have some good connections, and this is over here with someone who is a creator, so again, a page of earth. So the people who will be drawn to you and have the best relationship with you have that same earthy quality as you. They like the practical, and they see that you have something to offer, and they want to work with you. They've possibly felt very isolated themselves, very different. So I think you're going to draw to you a lot of people who are similar to you and have similar beliefs and so forth, but they're not as developed as you. But that's because you're going to be the leader. That's because you're the superhero, and at some point you're going to have to stand up for them, because they are, in a sense, no more confident of who they are than these people are, in the sense that we're talking both about page sort of level energy. But these ones are just full of action, and they're really sure of themselves. These ones really like things to be clear and to be have a true foundation. And when those two energies come together, this can be an overwhelming energy. The person who is sure they are right and that they have all the best ideas, even if there's nothing to it, can overwhelm the person who's more cautious and likes this energy goes a bit slower but is actually going to build to something more real. This energy goes very fast and can burn out. So there's some sort of power struggle. There's some sort of thing about defining this, but you are more than a match for it. But you will have to be the one who does it, because most of the other people around are not yet as secure in themselves as you either are now or you will become. And this is, I think, why we had this energy here, that you have been put through a lot of things to accelerated development so that you are actually at that more mature place and point in time when fate and destiny comes calling. So let's ask the cards a little bit more about this energy. I want to just get some ideas about the sorts of people or energies around you that could be antagonists, that could be challenges. They don't have to be out and out enemies, but you know, as I say, superheroes do need to have something that they battle against on one level or another. So we're just going to use a couple of oracles to get some demographic sort of information around who or what sort of energy you might be battling. Okay. The first thing I get, which is going to sound a bit weird with the cards that have actually gone down, but I get wolf in sheep's clothing. And part of the reason I'm saying that is that there looks like there's this sort of softness and water and caring. So they're probably going to appear to be very much on side with, you know, wanting to do something that's good for the community. But then there's this sort of energy, I feel, with the snake and so forth of the fiery energy as well. Now, it could be people that are born in those years, because that's Chinese astrology. It could be those sort of characteristics. So snakes are very clever, curious. They can be very alluring. This is very much a connection there. They're very wise in their own ways, calculating, but they're jealous. There's a jealousy here. I think this is a kind of a battle for supremacy, and you are ahead of them, but they really want to be that. And they could become an ally. Like, one of the things that could be coming here, I'm seeing, is that there is the possibility over time that they move from that energy to this energy. They move from being someone who's competing with you to someone who helps you build something. So in the best outcome is when you use that, you don't need to battle in a really antagonistic way, but you bring somebody along with you. That could happen for some of you. With the rabbit energy, we have the sort of more kind, sensitive side of things, artistic, romantic, bit timid and so forth. So that's interesting. I think this is picking up what I got here as well too. I think that some of these people, they're not necessarily antagonists. I think when we're talking about the rabbit energy and this sort of softness, this is more the people who are going to look up to you and depend upon you. And that in its own way is a challenge, because ultimately I think you would like a group of equals, but you're just going to have to come to terms with the fact that you are meant to be the superhero and that's your lot in life. You could help them develop, but that's going to take time. So there's some of the challenge for you is going to be that, holding that together, because these people are here for the cause and for the passion of it, and they believe in what you're doing, but they're not necessarily as ready to deal with the slings and arrows as you have been. This person over here wants your crown, wants to be the leader, but I don't feel has the same balance and understanding of what this is really about. This is why you are going to be more mature in this situation. You are going to be outcomes focused, where they're kind of ego focused. Let's see if there's any other information that we can get around this for you using a different oracle. Okay, so this may say that for many of you, the community that you're in, the sort of cultural thing, has a performance side to it. maybe connected to beauty and fashion or to balance in some way. You could be someone who looks at environmental issues and sustainable things for beauty and fashion and so forth. There is something performative about this energy. It's a bit dramatic. You are much more reserved and you have heft, you have gravitas, whereas they are relying on charisma, and they do have charisma. Like whoever this person is, or these type of people you're going to come up against, it's the other side of the coin to you, part one, because you are very grounded, you are very reserved, you are very fair, you are very mature. This person is very charismatic, very dramatic, possibly very alluring in some ways. So that's going to be one of the issues. It feels a bit like a clash between sensible decisions and policy and flashy propaganda, if it was in the political realm. But it may not be in the political realm, given we've got that sort of sense around performing arts and beauty and fashion. But in whatever it is, the energy that you're dealing with and that your superhero power has to rise against is one that is more flash and more dramatic and more performative, as I say, compared to you. The one thing that may help you is that ultimately this person, their fire burns out very fast. I think that's why we've got the Ace of Air there too, and even their concepts burn out very fast if they aren't getting the attention they want. They're not really committal. They're not really of your community, because your community is more, as I said, the creator of Earth. They're more the people who are committed and who want to build something and so forth. So I think that helps, and they're just as likely to run off on some other adventure if it doesn't work out. So I think for the most part, you're not going to have to show that real warrior energy. You're not really going to have to come out and do that much. So I do think there will be one point where you do. And I think this may be when you have really established yourself in whatever this is, and someone will come to try and deal with the throne. And I think they're going to be much more around using these sort of energies to try and unseat you, rather than just coming in and just having a bit of a sort of tilt of the windmill and running away. So there is going to be a battle for you at some point where the superhero thing really comes up, and where I have every confidence you're going to win, because you will be more mature than the other person. But it's almost like you're going to get to see versions of this, and you may already have seen versions of this over time. I mean, it's interesting that creative fire is connected to the ruler of Earth reverse there. It does suggest you've already maybe come across people who are more around charisma than good leadership. For instance, in workplaces or whatever, you've seen quite a few examples of where this doesn't work, where it's all charisma but there's no heft or balance to it, and this is all grist to your mill. But it's because, so you'll probably have just a few, it's almost like a few episodes in an episodic television series, sort of the crime of the week sort of thing. Not that it's crime, but that kind of energy leading up to something that becomes the motion picture, because it's the really big fated point where you really, really help your community and you really take them forward. So let's ask for some advice from Spirit around what you can bring to bear beyond what we already see, which is your maturity and your balance and all that sort of thing. So going to start with energetic sort of energy for you, just like what is some of the energy that you can focus on to bring your superhero abilities to the fore when you need them, because I think you are very measured about when you do it. Okay, so we have fear. I think that you will be responding to the fears of others. You don't feel fearful to me. Though if something triggers a sense of fear in you, it may be an early distant morning, a kind of psychic awareness of something coming through. But I think it's that you are the person, you attract people who are afraid in one form or another. So there is something political, environmental about this for you. I think that it is saying that allow the attraction of those who are fearful and unsure to you, because you will help ground them and you will help them process through that fear. That's that balanced side of you. It's why you create the sacred space for them and so forth. And there will be a point at which fate comes calling, and that may create some fear for you. But if you transmute that into attracting the right energies to you, then that will help you. So what else, Spirit? What sort of spiritually can Pile 1 rely on for their superpower the time the destiny comes knocking, as I think it's going to for them? Okay. So this is picking up two different versions of this sort of earth energy. One is life path 8, which is the financier, and the ruling planet is Saturn, and that is that maturity, your maturity. So your maturity, your clarity of mind, your capacity to see something out and build something, and I would say abundance, the capacity to bring in money with the financier is going to be part of what helps you. You are going to go into increasing positions of leadership in whatever this is. Some of you may run your own business or something like that as a yoga instructor. If not, then I think this is picking up that kind of material, earthy side of things. It may, in fact, be a practice that is useful for you to keep flexible, to keep limber, to keep aligned for yourself, because there's a lot of energy and sometimes fear being attracted into your sphere. So let's ask for a couple of affirmations for you, pile one. So your heartbeat is the song that's always with you. So whatever, this does pick up this sense to me that this is something that won't be new to you, that this is a pattern in your life. It may also be saying that music helps you. If music is a way to transmute fear and to draw the right energy to you, pay attention to what music that you listen to. Also pay attention to your heart, going into sort of bodily practices and so forth, like yoga. And it says doubt kills dreams, not failure. So I think you know that. I don't think that's anything new to you. I think you have gone through reversals, and as I say, part of that is just preparing you for the big battle, which you are going to win. I really don't have any doubt about that. And see, I don't have any doubt about that. And doubt kills dreams, so don't allow that doubt in. If someone comes along who seems flashier and takes more attention and draws the energy away for a while, it will balance itself out, because this person is all sort of form and no substance. So go with that. I think there's a American term about all hat and no cattle or something. There's that kind of feeling around them. So let's also ask the soul trees for a little bit of other advice for you before we close out on what you can create with your superpower. 1. Okay. So it says cleanse and liberation. So there'll be something, whatever this battle is, there'll be something that you need to free. It may be freeing people to live the way that they want to live rather than some sort of more totalitarian type of environment, for instance. It may be freeing people from health or other material patterns that aren't helping them, and cleansing that energy. Some of you may very well do this through some sort of business like yoga, like natural therapies or something like that. And you will very much rise to be an expert in that field and to be seen, but you're still going to be dealing with somebody who tries to steal your thunder if that's the case, or come up with some different way of doing things that isn't as effective, whatever that is. But you are trying to cleanse and liberate people. And that, if you go right back to what the vegans did when they were refugees from a war, they are all about finding a new home, a new community after liberation. So there's something in there that you will be freeing something as part of this as well. So last but not least, let's close out on a card from the Creative Soul Mandala about the creative energy around you as your superpower, your superhero status becomes clearer. Inspiration. So yes, you will inspire people. And that might be why there's the fear and the doubt and all of those sort of things, because this, whatever you're going to, when you really start to move into this and you really are a leader in your community and you really are able to protect them from what might weigh them down or not let them to be free and to be authentic, you will be inspiring people. That is part of what you do, but it may be that someone else tries to take that. So remember, always remember that your fate is to be the superhero here. Your fate is to be the one to protect what is precious and to protect that freedom and to protect that sovereignty of the community, and that people look to you for that and they are inspired by you. So not to be worried really about this. You are going to need to stand up, and possibly if this type of person at its worst tries to come in and take over and tie everybody up and make them all do what they want, which is a possibility with that sort of energy because it's a sort of immature sort of power energy, then you are going to need to stand in your truth at that point. But the degree to which you inspire others, do not doubt that people will follow you and will see that what you have to offer is so much more. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile one, and I hope it shows you a superhero journey that makes sense to you and that you can do, because I do think this sort of energy is very needed in the world. I hope you like the video. If so, please like it and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share, please let me know about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. These are the cards that were under the Strength card that drew you to this reading, and they're meant to give me a bit of a map of what your superhero status might be. And oh my goodness, oh my goodness, pile 2. You are the superhero that is here to protect, nourish, and help others ascend from the earth. You are very, very connected to this earth, but also interdimensionally. You are the absolute protector of those who are trying to spiritually ascend and deal with trauma and transmute trauma and let go of, whether it's generational karma, whether it's political and warfare and so forth, to take people to a higher vibration, to transmute that energy and to heal it and to protect. Because the Agathans here, they represent a particular interdimensional or extraterrestrial race that came out of and had freedom following some of the great wars interdimensionally, and one of their roles is to help humanity ascend, to open the stargates at the point where ascension spiritually is possible, and to then look after and tend the earth and almost clean up after the mess of the earth after the ascension and when people have been able to move to a higher vibration. We have Gaia's dragon here, the divine union of Gaia, the earth, with the dragon, the divine counterpart. There is a deep love. You have a deep love for the earth, and you have a deep love for the spiritual side of things. And it's almost like a twin flame energy, but a twin flame energy that is a super power, is a superhero type of energy. It's not necessary. You may well have a divine union in this life that is personal, but this is much more transpersonal. This is about the earth. This is about the spirits, the superheroes that help the earth deal with all the darkness and go to a higher vibration and remain, as I say, afterwards to tend the earth, to make it fertile, abundant, and healed again, so that the higher vibrational energy can operate here. You're protective. It's interesting. Rhea, or Rhea, from Greek and Roman mythology, is in fact the daughter of Gaia. So there's it's in your family blood. Maybe it's sort of something in your ancestral line. Maybe you have a very strong sense to ancestral lines in your community in some way, or it's lifetime after lifetime, and it's literally in your blood. But Rhea was very protective of her progeny as well, because she was married to Kronos, and Kronos was a dictatorial, dark energy type of tyrant, ultimately, who was very scared that he would lose his rulership to one of his children. So he would demand every time Rhea had a child that he would eat the child. So eat everything that is innocent and growth and development and so forth. And she protects Zeus by one day giving him a stone wrapped up in swaddling clothes, and he swallows that thinking that is Zeus, and then Zeus is able to grow up and eventually take over. And not that Zeus was necessarily a saint, but compared to his sort of parent, compared to Kronos, less totalitarian, less dictatorial, and all that kind of thing. So there is that energy of protecting what is precious from that sort of energy and healing it. So you are a superhero of the ages, I have to say. You are one of the people who is here to deal with the sort of spiritual warfare and all of that sort of stuff that is around at the moment, and with how that manifests in a very material way for people to liberate, transmute, and heal people with Archangel Raphael. And it's significant because your connection to the earth is significant, and your connection to spirit and the earth is significant. So you see this at a level that other people don't see, and as a result, you are here. You will see this through. like if there's a battle, like if there was an end times battle, for instance, I'm not necessarily saying we're in end times, but if there was something like that to take to the next level for the ascension, you will see it through to the bitter end. You are unafraid. You absolutely adore that which you protect, which is the sort of spirit and the earth, and you will stand. You are the first soldier there, but you also can forgive those that are and help transmute the energy of those who haven't understood. So it's very, very powerful energy. So let's have a look, because this could be sort of something that you develop through your life towards. But let's have a look about what's going on with your superhero capacity right now using the tarot. So there we have the Empress as well too. You are so much like Mother Earth, like Gaia, like what, it's not a gender thing I'm talking about here, it's just an energy. You are so nurturing, you are so connected. You already have that. You may well be already at a stage in life where you're a mother, you're therefore very protective of your children, you understand the importance of them being able to transmute any of the darker energy around in the world and so forth. Or it's just very much a connection to Mother Earth, and that sense, you already have that sense of stewardship around it. Hasn't been easily won, I have to say. It looks to me like you've had some reversals in fortune, either in terms of career, money, or even you felt detached from your actual family that you grew up in potentially, or you've been in a family and you've now moved away from it or something like that, been in a marriage and moved away from it. There's been something in the more recent past where you've had to detach from certain things that might have seemed to be secure and move into your higher knowing and your sense of hope. Like you've seen this. It's like, I think that maybe there's been some form of oppression around you or financial restrictions around you or something like that, but you've retained that hope because you can see the longer game. You can see what needs to be changed and what needs to be healed, and you have enormous tenacity even when you're brokenhearted. Something's happened to you. I mean, you might just be brokenhearted seeing what's happening in the world, to be frank. You're not the sort of person who could be looking at some of the stuff that's happening in the world at the moment with the sort of division between people and the sort of power struggles and so forth, or wars in other countries. You will feel that at a very, very deep level, and it breaks your heart. But you are still connected, even with the reversals, and you're still connected to the stars and you're still connected to the earth. You're like a meeting point between the two, and that what is showing up with your superhero thing at the moment is that capacity to remain positive and healing and supportive despite anything that may have been more disappointing for you. So let's ask, what might be your challenges at the moment? Who might be your challenges, if it tells us something about the sort of people who, as a superhero, you need to come up against, or what the challenges might be in a more broad level. Okay. Some of you are either now or at some point in your life going to be dealing with some sort of legal issues that are connected to this in some way, legal or political issues. And there is a sense here of a battle between your sense of connectedness, love for the earth and all that, and somebody's philosophy. There is somebody or a group of people, a political party, a ruling group, could be anything like that, legal, financial, even scientific potentially. There could be a battle around scientific sort of things in terms of how to protect the earth. But there's something where there's a formidable force. They're very well educated. They're very well aware of things, and they have a lot of like sway in the world. So there is something like that, and that doesn't surprise me again, because this just feels very macro for you that you're going to have to deal with. I don't think you've necessarily, for most people who've come here, come across this yet, but I think you've looked at structures that are not working. It's like, it actually gives me a feeling, I watch Russell Brand's podcast a lot, and it feels a bit like Russell Brand. I'm not saying Russell Brand's going to watch this and is this person, but But he talks a lot about the power structures that exist at the moment and where they don't necessarily fulfill what they are claiming to fulfill. So it gives me a bit of a feeling like that. I think that you're very spiritually connected, as I say, and you can see what isn't working, and you can see where no decision is being made, and that's actually stopping things. In fact, I'm getting that for some of you, you know that your superhero thing is to actually take something head on and transmute it. You are not the sort of person who, as life goes through, can just go, okay, I know the world's full of all this tension, but I'm just going to focus on my people and my life and being happy. You just couldn't do that because you're too connected to the bigger things. And so you see indecision and a lack of clarity as being part of the enemy to this, and where things are therefore, the King of Swords at best can be very fair, but there's a lack of real foundation, and there's a lack of thinking through, and there's a lack of action and decision around some of this. It's like you're an enemy of indecision, you're an enemy of apathy. You can see the longer term consequences of things and so forth. So some of your battle with people will be about waking them up, about getting them to see things that are going on, whatever this is, and being able to understand what isn't working and not wanting to just stay asleep. Getting them to make choices. You can do that. The very things that haven't worked for you with the Ten of Pentacles reversed allow you to have an understanding of what the relative value of things are. And you do stand a lot on your own 2 feet. I do feel like either you've left a relationship, you've left a workplace, or you're going to. And in this journey, you are going to move from being maybe an employee to being your own business, your own leader in some way. So that's part of it. You will do that because you can create a foundation. You can create something that is properly aligned and hopeful and transmute and healthy, transmute the sort of energies into a healthy way. But your main enemy is sort of indifference or apathy or just almost a kind of a delusion where people aren't really seeing the fundamental problems with what the structures are providing. Okay, so let's have a look at a little bit more information about the types of people who might be your challengers or your antagonists or your competitors or whatever it might be in your superhero journey. Okay, so firstly we're going to the colours. We have red and white. So red is very passionate, energetic. It's very sort of, driven. It makes me think a lot of sort of fire signs astrologically. And when that is sort of like just getting on with and just doing things and going after the power and going after the ambition without necessarily having the foundations, that can be really problematic. It feels very egoic. But they appear to be very cool, clear, elegant, established, and so forth. So you're going to be dealing with people who appear to be very pure, very, very idealistic, very good, very humanitarian, whatever that might be, but they're not. They're either deluded or they literally aren't what they appear to be, and they're not going to create what they're saying that they're going to create, that they're more about their ego and about being seen on the world stage. There could be some connection for some of you to Africa. So that could be that some of the people that you need to deal with come from those lands. There could be political or other sorts of issues that you want to help out in there. You could come from Africa. Leo, again, we've got the sort of fire sign. They're unapologetic, they're opinionated, they're very opinionated. But they're not as connected as you, but they think they're right. It's like the people who really think they're right and never question and don't see the connections of things that you do, they get stuck in patterns and they create the energy that needs to be forgiven and transmuted. So let's see if there's any other information from another pack about your challenger or challengers. Okay, that doesn't surprise me. That kind of ego energy and that kind of I want to be the powerful one and I want to rule, and the sort of people that often create totalitarian or rigid sort of like power structures often are narcissistic. So there's something there. You're not. You're very much connected to everybody, but they are all about themselves. What may be helpful for you is that they're a bit non-committal. So if they can't win the battle really quickly, they might just wander off somewhere else. So that could be helpful. You might find that sometimes you're more dealing with the helping to people heal and transmute after somebody who's been narcissistic and just sort of bled everybody dry has moved on to their next quarry. You might be part of this, might be about healing and transmuting that and taking people forward in certain circumstances. They're just not very mature. Like, there's nothing mature about this energy, for all that they want to come across as the King of Swords, and they are very educated, I think. They're very silvery tongue. They can certainly put across a good impression. There's something that maybe even from their own adolescence that they haven't sorted through, which might be partly the narcissistic stuff. It's interesting we've got cardamancy here. It may be that for those of you that are particularly working in the spiritual realms, the people who may challenge what you're trying to do, may be other people who work in that realm but are not coming from the connectedness and the caring that you have. They're coming more from their ego. So that may be relevant to certain people. So let's ask Spirit for some advice for you about dealing with all of this and maximising your superhero status. Firstly, some energy around it at the moment for you. Okay, self-reflection and resilience. So I think why this is saying this is that I think you are very pure in your motives. You are very pure in your motives. And if you had a Achilles heel, it would be that you might think other people are who aren't. And particularly with that King of Swords, you might be initially taken in by someone who seems to be saying all the right things and so forth. So like a politician who says, elect me, I'm going to sort of get rid of poverty and I'm going to sort of get equity and I'm going, all that kind of stuff. And then when they get into office, they just look after big business, for instance. Like it's understanding that not everybody comes from as pure motives of you. I think that's what you need in terms of self-reflection, because you are going to need resilience. You're doing something on the big stage. I do feel for many of you it's political or social in some way, or potentially environmental, but I think primarily it is about helping. It might be for some of you that you study and get involved in scientific sort of therapeutic sort of things to help people literally transmute pain in that way, in which case that King of Swords may be someone who has a different approach to that sort of thing and doesn't like your approach. So you may have to be resilient in that and reflect as you go through and develop that about why you are tuning into this deeper stuff and what you want to take forward with it. Okay, so to help you tune in, let's start to get some other advice and support. So firstly, what some spiritual energy around you may be. Okay, so you're very psychic. It doesn't surprise me. It almost would have surprised me if we didn't have things like that coming up with the energy that was there at the beginning. You're very psychic. As long as you, as I say, don't judge everybody by yourself, because you operate at a higher frequency than a lot of other people, and you let your clear seeing make you understand things, then you're going to see through to the heart of things very, very well. And you're going to need to, as I say, you can't ignore this. You're not the sort of person who can say, I just want a quiet life, I just want a peaceful life. You have to look at it. You are going to be part of this battle in one form or another, in whatever the battle is. And you can see it. You can see a long way ahead. You have very clear seeing, very clear understanding of things. You may use astrology. If you don't, it might be worth looking into that, either learning astrology yourself or finding an astrologer. The only thing I would say, though, is if you don't do it, then just be a little bit careful. With the fact that cardamancy turned up in it could be careful if you bring in an astrologer who the astrologer is. I think it might be better to learn it yourself, to be frank, just in case. I mean, I'm sure there are many wonderful, wonderful astrologers out there. I've certainly come across quite a few, and my brother was one. But just because that came up there, it could be that you might, in trying to sort of like find the information that you need to move forward, you might actually uncover one of the people who's going to compete with you. So it's just a little bit of a warning. Let's ask the soul trees for some other spiritual advice for you. Okay, so this is interesting. It's because let it go and go within. I think you are going to be, as I've said pretty much from the beginning of this, dealing with some pretty big macro issues, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on you. sometimes you're going to have to make decisions about whether a battle is worth it. Like there may be certain things you just have to let go because you have your eye on the bigger prize and the bigger outcome. And at other times, you're just going to need to find ways to go within and to divest yourself of all this heavy energy, because there's going to be a lot of heavy energy around you. So I think it is very important, particularly with the clairvoyance, you probably need boundaries to make sure you're not taking on too much of other people's stuff. And if you go within, you'll be able to recalibrate that. But sometimes you're just going to have to let go some of what you're seeing because it will be overwhelming. So to help with that, let's get a couple of affirmations for you. Okay, firstly, don't squeeze a dream too tightly. It must breathe to live. So I think that's picking up the soul tree's energy here. I think it's saying that sometimes it may seem almost too much and you really just want to grab at everything instantly. So it's like allow things to develop as they need to develop. You will be ahead of most people in understanding what's going on, and that could be frustrating sometimes, but just keep moving on it, because you are here to transmute and heal energy and ultimately to forgive it. You're not sitting in major judgment of it. And so again, squeezing on too tightly, it's the thing that's going to overload you. And you do need to be ready, because it's bigger than you think and closer than you imagine. So most of you are ready for this battle, whatever it is, ready to be the superhero. And I don't think it's far off that you'll have an opportunity to really, really help and heal others in some way, and maybe liberate others from a way of thinking that isn't serving them at the very least. So to finalise, I want to use a card from the Creative Soul Oracle for what you can create, or the energy around your creation of yourself as a superhero. Pile 2. Compassion. Yeah, there you are. That's who you are. This is why you have to be careful about the self-reflection, because you are a genuinely caring, loving soul, and you have compassion and forgiveness for everybody. Sometimes you're going to have to realize that not everybody's going to be able to meet you at that level, and sometimes people are going to push back because they're more about control and less about compassion. So as long as you're aware of that and you find how to give some boundaries for yourself and to protect yourself as well as everybody else, because you're all about protecting everybody else, that compassion that you have, you become an example. That's what I see. You become an example of what it is to live more authentically and more caringly. And that's how you ultimately beat that other energy. And it's stuff that's in your blood, as I said right from the beginning. So we really need you, Pile 2. We really, really do. So I do hope that this is helpful, and I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you know what this is, love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So these cards were under the tarot card that brought you to this particular reading, under the Strength card. Sorry, I had a little bit of a mental freeze there. And they're meant to give me a bit of a map about what your superhero qualities are. And then we'll have a look at how they're manifesting at the moment and what some of the challenges might be and so forth for you. So your superhero capacity is all about inspiration, creativity, truth, understanding, and bringing things into being by really getting almost the architecture and the secrets of the universe. You primarily are here to speak truth. So there is something heroic about you in that you were probably the truth teller in your family, and that may or may not have been a happy experience for you, but you are sort of someone who needs to speak truth, who needs to see truth and so forth. You understand that that is a higher vibration that brings in abundance. You are meant to be very well off in this life, I think, and that in itself, the abundance that you grow from your truth and your understanding and your clear sight, will actually then help you be in more and more positions to speak truth. You may in fact teach people, particularly around the capacity to understand the spiritual or the esoteric in some way with Horus there. Or you may be a muse to others, or be able to connect to muses for inspiration for something very, very creative. But there's something also a little bit Fae and otherworldly about all of this connection for you as well too, because we have the Ebens up here, which are sort of non-ascribed, I guess, types of ETs. They're a particular category, which is not necessarily of any particular race, and they're often the ones that, you know, people talk about if they have a skeleton of an ET, that's likely to be called an Eben and so forth. But they're all about mystery, reading between the lines, intuition, inspiration, all of that sort of thing. And it's usually something that's just starting. So this would suggest for you that you have always spoken truth and you've always been able to draw things to you. And I think you're bringing in a lot of wisdom from other lives, but I don't think yet you fully moved into your superhero status, into being able to be this ultimate truth teller on a bigger stage, on whatever stage it is that you have. You're still drawing in the inspiration, and you're someone, I think, who would lucid dream, or at the very least have very strong dreams. Guides would come to you in dreams and so forth. There is a wisdom coming to you. It's a downloading of stuff you already knew. So it sort of has a feeling of someone who's quite young, or if you're not young, you're only now starting to realize this is who you should be and this is what your mission is. So it's at its early stages, but it's early stages in this life. In other lives, you have actually developed this to a very high degree. That's why you can see the truth. That's why things get downloaded to you very quickly, and why you can then turn it into something that's abundance. So you're here, your superhero journey is about uncovering a truth or a new inspiration, a new way of looking at things that is drawing on ancient wisdom, but which is new and which breaks through and it clarifies something in some way. So let's have a look at what Tarot wants to tell us about how that's manifesting at the moment in your life. So what is your superhero journey at the moment? So the first thing I see here is the confirmation that you know, you may be either a bit younger or you may underestimate what you have in your kit bag at this point in time. With the Page of Wands reversed, it feels to me like you have a sense of, you know, what can this be? You have actually started to manifest things with the Seven of Coins there, so that fits with the abundance. But I feel like you feel a little bit insecure, like, do I really have a truth to tell? Am I really bringing in something that's new and different? And, you know, do I have all the skills that I need to do it? And in actual fact, Spirit is saying, yes, you do. That with the Magician there, and then with Horus here, you're bringing in all of those skills with you. And with the Sun, you're naturally creative and you naturally shed light on things, which is, of course, what a truth teller does. But you're unconventional. I wouldn't be surprised if many of the people who come to this were not necessarily the top students in their class. You may well have been the child who's actually was on a different level and bored, or really kind of came at things from a different direction, or maybe was sort of neurodivergent or something like that. You weren't conventional, and that's part of what's made you wonder, you know, am I as developed as you know, I'm getting all this information and download, but, you know, is it real, you know, and is it true? And this is saying, yes, it is, and that there is a lot of light that you can bring, part of what you're meant to do. And particularly if you were different in that way, particularly if you weren't conventional in some way, then it is the archetypal person, as I say, who maybe wasn't the top of their class at school, but who ends up creating an empire because it's actually what was different to the conventional that eventually becomes the abundance and eventually becomes the sun and the inspiration for others. But it is coming from a very strong esoteric base. You are getting downloads from spirit in dreams and more generally, and the inspiration, if you create in a physical or written or something like that way, a lot of that is channeled. A lot of that comes through because of an ability that you've naturally brought into you. And you are starting to see how you can invest in that, and you are starting to get the material outcomes that you need, or they're not far off if you feel. Sometimes with the Seven of Coins you have to wait a little bit longer, but it's coming. So this is definitely saying that you are going to be put in a position in this life through your own work, but it is going to work out to allow you to speak that truth, to allow you to do something new, to allow you to inspire others, because that's your superhero capacity. It's actually to bring in the new, the unconventional, but still very well founded inspiration. Inspire others, tell the truth. You could be an amazing journalist who breaks a, Pulitzer Prize type story. You could be a movie director who just completely defies all genres and brings out the next big thing. You could be a spiritual leader who brings a new inspiration and so forth to people and cuts through some of the maybe conventional or more sort of staid or stuck or hypocritical sides of certain sort of spiritual traditions and so forth. There's something that you are meant to do, and you're going to be in a position to do that. But I just think that you underestimate yourself at the moment, and I just think maybe in the earlier stages of your life or the earlier stages of your career, you doubted yourself because you were different. But it's because you're different that this is going to happen. So, however, when you're different and when you're going to be a superhero, it's part of the superhero journey to have challenges and potentially challengers and antagonists or competitors or whatever. So I want to ask the tarot for a little bit of information about what are the challenges and competitors and so forth that you may challenge on your, not challenge, that you may encounter on your superhero journey. Okay, so interesting, because part of your superhero thing is abundance, is being, and we've got the Seven of Pentacles there, but here we have the Ten of Pentacles or Ten of Coins reversed, and we have the Ace of Swords reversed. I think one of the early challenges for you, and this might be what's affecting your self-esteem if you are sort of more advanced in your career, or it may be something that comes up at first. You are going to have a battle with power, and you're going to see, actually, way ahead of this person, that something is not working materially, but there is an obstinance. It has a feeling of, an organisation that's going to eventually go through a financial collapse, and you can see what's coming, but the powerful will not hear it. They will not have anybody speak truth to power. It may, for many, be exactly that sort of thing that is the first time where you realise you're a truth teller and what the cost of that is, and that why that is a superhero ability. So it's like the person who can see the thing coming when there's groupthink all around, because there's a very strong leader who is not open to hearing things and so forth. And it's like the first sort of stage where you're moving into this superhero thing, there is like a reversal, there is a loss. Whether or not you sustain it, or whether you leave before that occurs, or whether you just see it and you're talking about it. So again, you could be a journalist talking about the fall of a corporate structure, for instance, or the fall of a political party or something like that. This feels kind of corporate to me, though. It feels sort of financial on some level, and I do think your capacity for abundance connects to that. But part of your thing is always going to be about being able to tell truth to power, and you are going to come up against those people in power who will not listen to truth. And that's going to be part of what you need to overcome. You will overcome it. You have strength because you are representing the new. These people represent the old. It's like a shift in the way that finances or political power or whatever is occurring. The old is leaving. In the time that you are going through this and you are moving into a superhero capacity, the old is giving way to the new, and you are strong in what you do and you're part of that leadership. But there will be a point where you get a lot of pushback from those who are enjoying the current regime and whatever that means, and you are trying to talk about that this is on sand, it's going to disappear, or the emperor has no clothes, or whatever it might be. So let's get a little bit more information about who the types of people these emperor types might be that you have to deal with. Okay. So it's interesting because there is a lot of creativity around this. For some of you, although, I'm talking about corporations, I'm talking about power structures, and I do think some of you will deal with that. Some of you, it's going to be done in a creative field, which is probably why I was sort of thinking about movies and things like that as well. For some of you, it's like something very new in the creative world, and the people who are making bank out of the current thing are not going to want that to happen. But the thing that's interesting about these people that are... They are the ones who've established themselves ahead of you. This is also probably why I'm getting that sense that you feel, you're a little bit like the David and Goliath, and you're David, this is Goliath. they have seen themselves as the arbiter of the new and truthful and inspirational. They have seen themselves as free-spirited and unconventional. They've seen themselves as the leaders of the new. And what's happened is it's a bit like a revolution. After the revolution, always we end up with this sort of like moderate energy that comes in after that, and things don't change that as much as possibly the revolution wanted. There's that sort of sense of like they brought in the new, they were in a creative sense, they were the auteurs, they were the ones that had the new vision or whatever, but it's kind of now that's become a dominant one. But they see themselves as that. So they would see anybody else coming in with something new as being a threat to that. So I think that's part of it. If this is not in a corporate world, but even if it's in a corporate world, these people see themselves as creative and unconventional. And I think they're a bit deluded if that's the case. But they do see themselves that way. But also with Aquarius, they're a little bit detached from other people. It is kind of like it's all philosophic to them. And you're a bit like that with the truth teller thing, but you are much more connected to source, I think, than these people are. So yeah, there's just this sort of sense of a tired energy around them. But nevertheless, they saw themselves that way, and they're very competitive, very impulsive. They are not going to take well to this. And we have goat energy coming up, which picks up the creative side of them, and they can seem cheerful and impulsive and so forth, and often easygoing. But if they are threatened by somebody who might be trying to take their mantle, they might think that you are trying to do that because it's all about them for them. Then another side is going to come out. The sort of more airy side is going to come out. Let's see what other energy we have around this. Okay, so they're smart, but then you are too. I mean, I don't think you don't need to be worried about the fact that someone's smart. I mean, they're going to be smart to have achieved whatever it is to get to that point of the Emperor. But you're the magician, remember, and the magician is actually probably smarter and more intelligent than the Emperor in many ways. The Emperor can get a bit stuck. So, but they are intelligent and they are creative. They are kind of what you want to be, but you want to be in a more honest and more flexible way. So don't underestimate them, I guess, is what I'm saying, which is not to say that you can't be the superhero and win. It just means that you really need to be able to assess your competition or your enemy or whatever it is very, very coolly and very clearly and very truthfully. I think sports and fitness is probably picking up the competitive side of them just as a personality thing, but some of them may be very much into sports and fitness. You could be in an environment where being part of the sporty group is part of the power structure. I've worked in organisations where if you didn't play golf, then you were never going to hear the real stories and the real power decisions and so forth. So it could be something like that. They could be light-haired, potentially. We've got 30s. Now, 30s to me is it could be that these people, or when you first encounter them, you're in your 30s or they are. The 30s, however, just as a time frame, as a decade, tends to be the decade where people are really establishing themselves. The 20s tends to be when you're finding out who you are. The 30s is when you establish yourself. The 40s and 50s are when you consolidate all of that and then sort of move towards retirement or your legacy and so forth. So it could be saying these people are not far ahead of you yet. They've just got to the point where they've got the position of power or whatever, but they're not necessarily, if they try and make out that they're so much further and more developed than you, and if they pick up any sort of sense in you that you feel a little bit behind or a little bit insecure, then that they could use that. So be aware they're not really that much further ahead, and in actual fact you have more real connection to inspiration than they do. So it's important to know that. So let's also see what other advice Spirit would give you for dealing with your superhero journey. So firstly, some energetic advice around you at the moment. Okay, so firstly, unexpected. This suggests that something's coming. I think the first of the sort of battles, the first of the truth-telling scenarios, if you haven't already gone through it, is coming. It could be that there's some unexpected information coming to you, which is going to sort of bring to the surface, particularly if you did resonate to that sense that maybe the the structure of the organization you work in, or whatever it might be on shifting sands, then there's something unexpected that's going to sort of trigger your aha moment around this. Beauty, I think, is about balance. I think this is saying just keep things in balance, understand what you have, see the beauty in what you have, see the beauty in the inspiration. Don't get swayed by the competitive rubbish around it. Let's ask for some spiritual support for you as well too. What sort of abilities or spiritual approaches or platforms or whatever could be useful for you. Okay, wow. So firstly, indigo child, the gamma generation born between 1978 and 1988. So you might be in that group. You may be an indigo child, and so it may be worth looking up the gamma generation for a bit more information about that. It could be that that's a generation that you can lead and inspire, or it could be your antagonist. But there's some energy around that, and indigo children are very much connected to source. So I think that's probably just indicating you have that connection. This again is also indicating that you are psychic, that you are connected psychically, that things are challenged and are channeled, and that the truth that you get, part of that is you are actually a natural psychic detective. You do see what's going on in the world. You do get to the heart of things. You know, your sense of that is finely tuned, and so you have the capacity to telepath. You have the capacity to sort of use different forms of divination and so forth to get to the heart of something, to get to the truth. So that's there for you as well. Let's see what the soul trees want to give you as advice for dealing with this. Because it's not the easiest energy, I think, to be a superhero that's all about truth, particularly in this world. But you have a hell of a lot of ability to take forward with it. Liberation and bloom. It's interesting, liberation turned up for one of the others, so you might have a connection with one of the other readings as well. Some of telling truth to power is about liberating the truth and liberating people and liberating structures or whatever. So that's definitely part of your superhero journey. And when you do it, you bloom. See, I think this is the thing. It's almost as though what has to happen, because you're not 100% sure of everything that's coming through for you. You do need the battle. You do need at least one point where you see that the old guard is not working and you can tell the truth and you can move forward, and then you bloom into who you're meant to be. Because ultimately, you're meant to be a very truthful, inspired inspiration for others, creative and a leader on that sort of level. But I don't think necessarily a leader in an organisation, unless that's something you specifically want to do, or unless the organisation is somehow about truth-telling or information or something like that. But it's once you actually liberate away from old structures that you start to bloom. So let's ask for some affirmations for you to help with that liberation. Okay, so doubt kills dreams, not failure. So basically, don't doubt yourself. This is your, as I say right from the beginning, your one Achilles heel, that you probably underestimate how much skill you have in this regard. You maybe give a bit too much power to authority or to those that are established experts or whatever. You have much more than you're thinking you have, and you inspire people even when you don't see them watching. So you are inspirational. That was there right from the beginning. So and your capacity to tell truth to power and all that sort of thing is inspirational to others. So don't forget that. So to finish off, let's just ask for a card from the Creative Soul Mandala about what you can create with your superhero capacity, or what energy will help you create your superhero capacity, whichever spirit wants to tell us about. Play. Okay, I think it's the same message is coming over a number of times, pile 3. You underestimate yourself, and you are a natural channeler of inspiration, new ideas, the new, the innovative, all of that sort of thing. And if you start to look at it as something enjoyable and not something that is sort of a status thing, and you're always measuring yourself against other people, because you're ultimately going to surpass these other people. That's part of your superhero journey. But you give too much power to other people if you buy into their structures and their rules of the game. You need to find your rules of the game and what's new and so forth, because you're going to have something that is better and more sustainable, I think, than what you have been experiencing and what you have seen as successful. You will be abundant, you will inspire others, you will bring in something new, but you have to enjoy it. That helps you liberate from your energy of am I good enough, because you absolutely are, and then you can bloom. So I do hope that this resonates for you, and I hope that it's helpful and it lets you know what your superpower is, how and when and how you should be a superhero. Because I do think there will come a time when you are going to be pivotal in ushering out the old and bringing in the new, and being truthful with all of that. So I do hope this helps. Hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.